All right, talk to us about in the industrial meat market, which is something you touch on in your book, and that might be something that people are completely unaware of. In fact, I think most people would be completely unaware of. So can you talk to us about that?
Especially in Australia, you know, people are pretty aware of it in the States, but Australia, it's a fairly recent thing, and I know there's been a bit of an outcry. So what that means there is the animals, happy cows, happy chickens, I always call them happy cows, because they're doing what God decided, how He made them. So they wander through the fields, they're eating in a very relaxed way at their own pace, eating all the herbs and the things in the grasses, and they're churning up the ground and they're fertilizing, and there's a complete balance in what you would call agroecological methods, and the land benefits, the animals benefit, and we benefit. When you take that away and you try and increase production, so these animals are taken out of the field, they are fed hormones to grow them quicker and fatter, they put into these lots, mechanical lots, where they like restricted so they can't move around. Totally abnormal. First of all, it's cruel, it hurts them, it's unkind. Robotic feeding, robotic milking, the females are kept pregnant the whole time to get the dairy. I mean, they're in pain, they're in agony, they treat them badly, they break their legs, they feed them grain, GMO grain and things that are very bad for their bodies. It's just their body, from the stress of what they're living in, it affects their body. The hormones imbalance, the omega-3s imbalance, you'll get too much omega-6 instead of a balance between omega-3 and 6, you get increased inflammation. They get antibiotics because they get sick, so you are eating hormones, antibiotics, stressed animals, and also we're not stewards of creation. I mean, let's just look how God's called us to be a steward of creation, steward our bodies, steward the earth. Do you think He's going to be happy if you look at those? I mean, just go watch some of the DVDs. What's Google CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations, and just watching the news. There's a lot going on in your country at the moment where the dairy farmers are actually really rising up against this whole industrial way of, you know, raising. There's a lot of talk in your country, which is fantastic, opposing this at the moment, and it's all over the place. But you just have to take one look at those cows, you'll start crying. I mean, so sad if you think, is this being a steward of creation, and then what you're putting in your body? It's not nutrition. You know, it's not how do you fulfill your purpose, and eventually you'll catch up with one. You know, you can't keep going. And
you mentioned GMOs. What is that?
Genetically modified organisms. So that's where science wants. There's nothing wrong with science. It's what man has done to the science, done to the food, etc. So genetically modified is like a very fancy game of cut and paste, where they're fiddling with the DNA and to create like bug-resistant products. But the problem is that they don't really understand. And the global consensus in 2015 was that globally we don't know the impact on humans, on the land, on the animals, on the ecosystem, on future generations. We only understand 98% of soil, so that's a big part. We don't really know what it's doing, and we do know that it's causing a lot of problems. You know, and then also the big thing is God gave us seeds that are reproducible, so seed will reproduce, whereas GMO seeds don't. They last for 1 year and you have to repurchase, and they patent them. So when you take something that God gives you that keeps on going, and you play with it and fiddle with it, and you create monoculture, which is one type of crop, as opposed to, you know, all the diversity God's given us, they breed that out. So there's just a complete manipulation of the system, which is not, you know, the consequences are here. Increased starving, increased waste, increased illnesses, you know, so it's 50 years later, we're paying the price globally.
Wow, and so many people would be completely unaware.
Exactly. And there's also a bit of willful blindness, though, because there is a lot of information out there, but people think, oh, you know, it's not really, and look, it's fortified with this and that. So there's a lot of media that's made people think it's not so bad. And that's where we need to stand up and actually make some decisions about maybe we should look. So I teach that in my book, in the different sections, just what to look for, how to be aware, and why should we be aware? What's it doing to your body, your brain? As Christians, as stewards of creation, as I've mentioned, you know, there's a lot of factors that we can't really overlook. We can't eat like this and then just expect, you know, our bodies to stay healthy and our earth to stay healthy, and then blame God. You know, which is what people, you know, will pray grace over it and hope it's going to be okay. It doesn't turn that processed food into organic kale. There's a bit more responsibility involved. So it's just a shift. It's a mindset shift.